Chapter 10, Our Constitution Today. Keep in mind the big question: what are some of the reasons for the success of the Constitution and its survival for more than 200 years? Still going strong. If the Americans who wrote the Constitution came back today, would they recognize the country they helped create? You can probably list 100 things that would be totally strange to them. If that's all they saw, they wouldn't recognize America at all. What would they say about airplanes? About cars and trucks whizzing along highways? About tall office buildings in crowded cities? About cell phones, telephones, television, computers? But what if those same Americans heard today's citizen debate about who to vote for, or who to argue against on the school's board new plan in a public meeting, or discuss the news they heard on TV or read the newspaper? That would be a different story. Choosing our own representatives, meeting publicity you have to say about laws we live under, exercising our rights to free speech and free press. Surely those visitors from the 1780s would find these quite familiar. Chances are they would smile, congratulate each other, and say, "The Constitution we wrote more than 200 years ago is alive and well." Let me try that again. The Constitution we wrote more than 200 years ago is alive and well in the 21st century America. Why has this Constitution lasted so long? The short answer is that for 200 plus years, the Constitution has served the American people well. How exactly has it done this? Not too much, not too little. One of the greatest features of the United States Constitution is that it doesn't try to say or do too much. Do you remember how a well-made Constitution is like the framework of a house? How ordinary laws are like the furniture that fits inside? The people who wrote our Constitution, however, never confused the house with the furniture. They didn't try to write rules for every small detail of government. They set down the main framework of the government. That's all. Why is this important? What's wrong with a Constitution that spells out little details of government? What's wrong is that nobody, no matter how wise, can possibly guess what life will be like many years in the future. Remember that a good, written Constitution should not be too easy to change. If you load up your Constitution today with a lot of rules that may make no sense tomorrow, your Constitution is not going to work well for very long. Here's an example. How many people should each member of the House of Representatives represent? The Constitution says that each member has to represent at least 30,000 people. It could be more, though. How many more? The Constitution doesn't say. It lets each future generation decide for itself. A good thing, too. Suppose the Constitution had said each member of the House shall represent exactly 30,000 people. With our population today, there would be more than 9,000 members sitting in the House of Representatives. That is, if they could find seats. So one reason the Constitution has lasted all this time is that it does not try to do more than a Constitution should. In fact, after tacking on the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments in 1791, we Americans have amended our Constitution only 17 times. How many times? Get ready. Yes, 17 times. 4 guiding principles. The Constitution has served the American people so well for so long for another reason. It is built on 4 strong guiding principles. The first of these guiding principles is the one that Thomas Jefferson stated in the Declaration of Independence. Governments get their just powers from the consent of the governed. Do you remember what that means? To put it simply, it means that we the people rule. We rule by choosing the people who represent us in government. We do this on the national level. We do it on the state level. We do it in the towns and cities in which we live. If we like the job our representatives have done, we can re-elect them. If we don't, we can choose others to represent us. The second guiding principle is limited government. The Constitution lists many things a national government may do. It can collect taxes and borrow money. It can control trade between the United States and other countries. It can make laws about immigration and citizenship. It can coin and print money, run a postal service, and create new courts. It can create an army and a navy, and it can declare war and make peace. Those are a lot of powers, to be sure. But the Constitution also states many things the national government may not do. Most important, the Constitution prevents the government from interfering with the freedoms and liberties of the people. The Bill of Rights spells out still other limits on the federal government. The principle of limited government is what guarantees our freedoms and guards against the possibility of government becoming too powerful. Our third guiding principle built over our Constitution is the separation of powers. The responsibility for government in the United States is split among three branches of government. They are legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch, or Congress, makes the laws. The executive branch, headed by the president, carries out the laws or enforces the laws. The judicial branch handles challenges to those laws and can decide whether they are permitted by Constitution. If not, the law is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court can also find actions by the president to be unconstitutional. Congress can impeach or bring formal charges against a government official and remove the president or individual judges. With powers of government separated in this way, no one branch of government can do whatever it wants. No one branch can ride roughshod over the other two. Each branch is checked and balanced by the other two. The fourth guiding principle is federalism. As you have learned, federalism is a system of dividing the powers of government between national government and state governments. But the trick to making a federal system work well is to give each level of the government the job it does best. The writers of our Constitution did a brilliant job of dividing up powers the right way. The Venn diagram lists some of the powers the Constitution grants the national government, and some of the powers remain with the states. On that same diagram, you see an area where the powers overlap. These powers are shared, meaning both the national government and the states have these powers. The power to tax, for instance. The national government needs this power to pay for our armed forces and many other things. But the state governments also need this power to pay for building roads and running schools. So now you know the many reasons why our Constitution has lasted more than 200 years. There is, however, one other reason for the success of the United States Constitution. It is the American people. We have respected the Constitution, and we have taken care to preserve it. And in return, the Constitution has taken care of us.